In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to build a simple lighting rig. So I've got an animated lightning strike, and when the lightning is visible, I'd like a few things to happen. First of all, I'd like this point light to be active. And secondly, I'd also like to turn the sunlight off and to change the lighting of the environment. Now, obviously, this isn't physically correct because in nature, when lightning strikes, it doesn't tend to also turn the sun off. But in this case, it's actually a really nice little stylization for this shot. So what I need to do is to build a simple rig to control various properties in the scene according to whether the lightning is visible or not. So the visibility of the lightning is actually controlled on the mesh item of the lightning, and the render channel is animated. You can see the animation in the timeline down here. So when the lightning is not visible, this is what the lighting looks like. But when the lightning is visible, I'd like this point light to be turned on. I'd like the directional light to be turned off. And I'd like this constant to be turned on in the environment to give this nice dramatic look to the lightning strike. So I'm going to switch to my schematic view, and I'm going to create a new workspace, and I'm going to call it Lightning Rig. And then I'm going to switch to my new workspace. It's a good idea to get in the habit of always creating a new workspace for every rig that you make. It just keeps everything much tidier. And the next thing I need to do is to add this channel to my schematic. Now I can see that I've got not only this mesh item selected, but also this environment. So I'm going to drop my selections first, and I'm going to reselect my mesh, and then I'm going to select the relevant channel, and then I'm going to click on Add Selected. Now the reason I dropped my selection before doing this is if I still had the environment selected, that would have also been added to the schematic, and I don't want that right now. And next is simply a case of adding all the additional channels that I need to control to the schematic. So I'm going to select my point lights, and I'm going to go to the channels, and I'm going to select the visible channel, and I'm going to add selected. So add that over here. Just drag that over there. And then I need to do the same thing with the directional lights. So I'm just going to select the visible channel, add that to my schematic. And then I'm going to locate my constant in my environment, and let's just select this channel here and click Add Selected. Now, as you can see, when I added the texture, it added a bit of extra stuff. So I'm just going to deselect everything. And this is the texture locator, which I don't actually need. So I'm going to select the node in the schematic, right click, and just remove item. And then I'm going to go to the constant texture, and I'm just going to select all these channels and just remove them, because all I need is the enable channel, and then I'm going to place that here, and now we're ready to go. So I'm going to need to add some logic nodes to the schematics. I'm going to go to Add, Conditional, Logic A is equal to B. And if I select the render property on my lightning mesh and switch to the channels, we can see that we have three possibilities. Default, which is going to equal 0 or return a value of 0. Got yes, which is going to return a value of 1. And no, which is going to return a value of 2. Now, if I scrub in the timeline, you can see that this property changes from no when the lightning is not supposed to render to yes when the lightning does render. So when the lightning renders, this node is going to output a value of 1. And when the lightning doesn't render, it's going to output a value of 2. So we need to connect this to the A is equal to B node. I'm just going to double click on this node so then we can see what's going on. So the first thing I need to do in the logic node is to enter a relevant value in the value B field. So I'm going to enter 1, because that kind of makes sense. And next I'll have to define what happens whether the result is true or false. So let's look at the point light visible channel. And so we've got 4 options in here, and we want to use either 1 or 2. So yes is 1 and no is 2. So we need the logic node to return a value of 1 when the lightning is visible, and when the lightning is not visible to return a value of 2. So let's return to the logic node to set that up. So I'll start by defining the true options, and I'm going to define that as output true value, and I want the output true value to be 1. And then in the false options, I'm going to say output false value, and I want the false value to be defined as 2. And then it's simply a case of connecting the output of the logic node into the input of the visible channel. And next I'm going to check if my rig is working in preview. So I'll select the lightning item, and I'll just unpause preview. we're at a point where the light should be visible, and I'm just going to skip back a few frames, and you can see that indeed when the lightning is invisible, the point light is invisible, and as soon as the lightning is visible, the point light shows. So now I need to apply the same idea to the other two channels that I want to drive. So I'm going to select my logic node, and I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate it, and that's also kept my connection to my lightning item, which is great. So I'm going to go to the directional light, and I'm going to select the visible channel, the one that we want to drive, and have a look in the options. And once again, I'm looking at returning a value of 1 for yes or 2 for no. And in this case, I actually need the opposite behavior to what I had with the point light, because I want the directional light to be visible when the lightning is not visible. So it's just a case of swapping the values around in my logic node. So what I need to do is to swap around the true value and the false value. So I'm going to select the true value, and I'm going to enter 2, and then I'm going to go to the false value and enter 1. And just as before, it's now a case of connecting the output to the channel, and let's unpause preview and see what it looks like. So at the moment, the lightning is visible and the directional light is not, but if I scroll back, we can see that when the lightning is not visible, the directional light is, so everything's working correctly. And once again, I'm going to duplicate my logic node, and let me just rearrange my schematic a little bit. And now I'm going to check out this channel in my channels list just to see what we've got. So this one's a simple Boolean, so I'm assuming true is 1 and false is 0. So I'll return to the logic node, and it's basically a case of adjusting these values. So what I need to happen is for when the result is true, for the node to output 1, and when the result is false, to output 0. And once again, I'll connect it up, and let's unpause preview and do a test. So it looks as if it's disabled when the lightning strike isn't visible, and if I scroll to where the lightning strike is visible, we can see that indeed the node is now enabled. And just double check that, you can see in the shader tree that it's updating as I scrub through the timeline. And so I've rendered out the sequence, and I'm going to play it in Hero so you can have a look at it. So you can see we've got a very nice dramatic effect when the lightning strikes. And I've also done a variation, if I just switch back to Modo, where I've basically disconnected the sunlight and the environment, and the only thing that's being rigged now is the point light. And I've also rendered that out, and you can compare. It's not as dramatic, but quite nice as well. But you can see basically how easy it is to control various properties in your scenes by using some simple rigging.